is just a quick little video so that we can talk about your textbook so you know what to expect. First of all, the purpose of your textbook is outlined in the preface. If you don't have your book yet, by the way, you need to get it right away, but if you don't have it yet, I am uploading a file with the preface. It's a quick, easy read, but here are some of the key things. It reminds us that this textbook was written essentially for you guys. It's for students who don't have a legal background, so this is not a law school textbook by any means. But it gives us a nice historical survey. It gives us up-to-date analysis of free speech issues and talks about some cases in the U.S. that are going to be really helpful for understanding this subject. It also uses a liberal arts perspective, so it emphasizes historical and theoretical developments. It looks at really cool historical laws, how those relate to the way we see things today. So contemporary stuff tied to the past, which I find very enjoyable. It also explains all kinds of neat concepts of free speech that we're going to come to know quite well by the end of this semester. It also applies those to practical communication law. I noticed that a bunch of you are English majors or are interested in writing, and so you're going to find these copyright laws really useful. So are those of you who are going to use media in your jobs, whatever those jobs are. So the reason that I like this book is that it works the way that I think. I like to trace the development of ideas over time. Essentially, I'm a rhetorical scholar. So I look at the meaning of words and how they shift based on cultural events, historical events, all that kind of fun stuff. It also helps us to really learn how to read Supreme Court rulings and to understand how state and federal law influence what we think of as free speech rights. As far as the features of the book, use a historical perspective that we talked about. So how did we come to understand, say, what it means to march and protest? How did we come to believe that it was okay to do that on a sidewalk, but say not in the mall? It helps us to appreciate these historical roots and explains to us in multiple ways that meaning changes over time. So what it meant when they wrote the First Amendment back, way back, and what it means to us today when we have an internet and we have Instagram, we have TikTok. These are very different understandings of those words. So we have to change the meaning with time. It also uses a conceptual structure, and all that means is that something like prior restraint is an idea that we're going to look at. Obscenity itself is a concept. We're going to talk about what that concept is. We're also going to look at what World War I has to do with internet freedom or lack thereof. We're going to look at all kinds of neat things and ideas, and we're going to apply this knowledge to new situations. That's the key. So we're not going to just be memorizing something that happened in the Supreme Court back in, I don't know, 1919. We're going to be talking about how those ideas relate to new situations as they arise. So you can look at the news, and you can look at Instagram posts, and you can look at Facebook posts, and you can say, hey, I understand that from a free speech perspective. I understand what we can do and what we can't do and why. Here's another really cool feature in the book. It's these Supreme Court case summaries. So look for those and read them and study them. In fact, if it were me, I would copy those out and pin them up on my wall because they teach us all kinds of neat things. Sometimes we have a tendency when we're trying to get through a bunch of readings for class to not look at those breakout boxes, but do the opposite. Always read those breakout boxes. There's also all kinds of excerpts in this book from actual Supreme Court rulings. So we'll start out with some of those so you can get a handle on the language of legal documents. But here's the thing, those legal documents, they belong to all of us as they are public. As U.S. citizens or people living in the U.S., it is your right to be ruled by those laws. That's what we decided as a society to do. So it's going to be fun to use this textbook as sort of a primer so that we can learn how to read those documents that are available to all of us at any time. Yeah. Did you hear that little bomb sound effect? I don't know if it carried through, but anyway, here's the truth bomb. A lot of these chapters, they're just way too dense. They really are. It can be hard to make sense of it, but here's the thing. Pay attention to the layout of the chapter. They always have a really nice intro to tell you what to expect in the chapter, and then a summary at the end. And if you pay attention to that intro and that summary, it's going to help you make sense of what the key points are that you need to pull out. Also, I'm going to be talking through this stuff with you. I'll be pointing you to the things that I think are most useful for understanding free speech. for real, in different ways as we figure out how to do all of this stuff online. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed is the key. Also, there's a bunch of appendices at the back of the book. Use those appendices. There's an amazing glossary. There are great diagrams that help you follow through and learn this stuff in a different kind of way. All right, I have a couple of tips for using the book effectively. First thing, make sure you read the assigned chapters for each module. I don't know if you can hear, but my cat is eating some dry cat food to help support this message. So she agrees. Read the assigned chapters for each module in the order suggested and before you start the work in each module. It'll just help everything make more sense. Also, take notes. You want to use your notes in a way that's going to help you to hold on to that information that you're reading, because writing is another way of learning. If we write something out, we learn it in a different way than we learn it when we're reading it. Also, take notes that are going to provide you with essentially an outline of the key concepts and historical developments that you're reading about. That way, when you get an essay question from me that says, hey, how does the concept of obscenity relate to the Vietnam War, you're going to be like, oh, hey, here are my notes on historical developments from this chapter and on the key concepts, and then you can figure out how those things relate. I already said this, but I'm going to say it again. Pay attention to those boxes and the diagrams. Not only do they highlight key information for each chapter, they also access different ways of learning. So if we learn the same information in different ways, if we learn it through a diagram, we learn it through reading it, we learn it through writing it, we learn it through discussing it, we learn it through relating to parts of our lives that we can think of, past, present, and maybe even future. The more ways we learn that, the more pathways they are for that knowledge to be stored permanently. And that's the point. I want you to have this information with you for the rest of your lives. Okay, one more way to use this book effectively is to chill out, man. Seriously, be chill. Free speech is complicated. If it were easy, there wouldn't be hundreds of books trying to explain it, and there wouldn't be hundreds and hundreds of court rulings trying to define what the meaning of free speech is. So don't expect it to be easy. Just expect to go with the process. You're not supposed to know this stuff coming in. We're going to learn it together, so be patient. Look up words you don't know. That's how I learn words. I look up words every single day. I really do. And you have to do the same thing. So look up words you don't know. Remember, you have the glossary in the back of your book. And of course, you have all sorts of online access to dictionaries. And just keep reading. Keep on pushing through. Everybody always wants to know what's going to be on the exam. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to talk to you about key concepts in class. That means key concepts are going to be on the exam. Key cases. Remember all those little boxes I said you should read? Those key cases that are in those pull-out boxes and key cases we discussed together, they're going to be on the exam. So are key historical events. So if an event was big enough to make a difference in our legal understanding of freedom of speech and our cultural understanding of freedom of speech, you can bet your bottom it's going to be on an exam. So here's my key tip. You don't need a magic broom to get the answers. Seriously. Just take responsibility for your learning. I'm going to have it all laid out for you what learning outcome we're exploring with what we're reading and what we're doing. So just, take hold of that monster. Get it done. I also pledge to create fair exams. I really do. That's never my goal to trick you in any way. I hate exams that are tricky, so I always try to make them fair and based on the material that we're talking about. That means you can put your wands away. I have a little apology there for people who don't enjoy Harry Potter, but I'm actually not sorry at all because I love Harry Potter, and Harry Potter has been one of my survival strategies for this end of the world time. I listen to it on Audible, and it helps me calm down. All right. So that's what I have to tell you about the textbook. I hope that was helpful. We will have an opportunity to discuss this together later. Take care.